Jay Norvell kind of mentioned this, the fact that he's going to be getting a lot more support. Also, his salary tripled. What is up, everybody? It is Jake with Master Football, back at it again. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here. If you've never been here before, Jake with Master Football, pro football, college football, video game football, anything related to American football, we discuss in the show right now. Please subscribe, hit the red subscribe button, like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. Get involved. I really appreciate it. Let's get into the video. All right, guys, so we are early December right now. We're coming up. It's kind of the home stretch for the NFL. We're coming up on the last couple games here. I think everybody's got about 5-6 games left, so we're going to see how everybody does. But I feel like, and again, it's one of those things where, I feel like there's going to be a lot of college football videos in the next couple of weeks, but then after that, it's going to really, really evaporate. And maybe talk about some bowl game things, but you got to remember right now, the big factor for it is the fact that because the early signing window is December 15th and people can early enroll, early December and late November, especially around conference championship time and the week after, is off the chain when it comes to movement around the country. So I want to actually go through the coaching carousel right now, kind of talk about and see, what's going on, who's going where, what's going to affect everything, and kind of why everything is happening. So let's go ahead and get into it. So here we are on CBSSports.com, a college football coaching carousel tracker, grades, analysis on all coaching changes 2021, 2022 hires. So again, these are going to be hires for the next season. It has a short article here, but I want to go down here and get into a couple of these. The first big one is the fact that Oregon has lost Mario Cristobal. Mario Cristobal is leaving, and he is going to the Miami Hurricanes. Again, you can see how this is kind of connected here. Manny Diaz was out, and then they hired Mario Cristobal. Mario Cristobal from Miami, Florida, speaks Spanish, played for the University of Miami as an offensive lineman, won 2 national championships. I mean, he is born and bred Miami. He is the guy. I think that Miami really was desperate for this situation because, and again, I don't have evidence for this. I do know that there were several videos out there, clarifying this in some way. But the Miami, how do I say this? The Miami president does not want to necessarily be seen as only a football school. Now, they have had a good run with football as of late, or I would say as of like the last 30 years. But he wants to be seen as kind of the Harvard of the South, something to that effect. But that's causing a couple different issues there. One of them was the fact they weren't hiring marquee coaches. Another one, and I didn't realize how big of an aspect this was, but despite the fact that they play at a pro stadium, I mean, they play, in the Miami Dolphins' new stadium, despite the fact they do that, they don't have an on-campus stadium. It really hurts. It's hard to get a whole bunch of people to go out there, especially in transient cities, San Diego, LA. It's hard to get, UCLA doesn't have an on-campus stadium. It's really hard to get a whole bunch of people to show up to the Rose Bowl. I remember the video that they were playing early in the season, and they had almost nobody in the game or at the stadium. And a lot of people were saying, oh, it's because it's hot outside. It's like, BS, dude, it's college football, man, and we're actually able to go to the games. They have a hard time going to that, unless it's a big game. That UCLA LSU game was packed. But before and after, they just have a hard time getting people to go because they don't have that on-campus atmosphere. So even USC, USC has, the Coliseum, which is really close to their campus, so students can walk over. It adds to the nature of that. So they did what they needed to do in order to make up for that. And again, they play at a really nice stadium, but they had to bring in a top flight coach. They bring in Mario Cristobal. This is a weird one because Mario Cristobal left. Now, again, I do think the fact that he's from Miami helps out with this, but he left Oregon. Oregon right now, if you think about that, if you go through the rest of the Pac-12 North, okay, Washington just fired their coach. Washington State just fired their coach. Oregon State was better this year. And then what else do you have? You have Stanford, David Shaw, who's just a mainstay there. And then you have Cal, and Cal is just kind of doing whatever they can out there. Really, Oregon is the unquestioned leader of that division, but Mario Cristobal willingly gave that up to come back home to be with the Miami Hurricanes. I think that's a big one. Seeing what Oregon's going to do, whoever Oregon hires, man, Oregon has Phil Knight behind them. Again, I've noticed this is a commonality where if the administration and boosters want you to be good at football, you will have the support to be good at football. You still have to win, but that's a big aspect of it. We're actually going to get down here to Bush Davis and what he has to say about a certain particular program, notably the FIU Panthers. But you see there that, Oregon currently has a head coaching position available. Jay Norvell, this is an interesting one. So if anybody is familiar with the Mountain West, I know, everybody knows I'm a Boise State fan. But the Mountain West North for the last couple years has basically come down to Boise State and Utah State. Occasionally Air Force will make a run at it, but it's Boise State and Utah State. Wyoming will have it if they have Josh Allen, but for the most part, those are the two big, programs that are here. Colorado State is a weird one because people keep on trying to make Colorado State a thing. It's not a thing. But I will say it hasn't been a thing. But you have noticed something. You see the new stadium with Colorado State. You see the fact that they hired Jay Norvell. Jay Norvell got his salary almost tripled coming over from Nevada. A lot of people are saying, why would he leave? Because remember, if you think about this is the Mountain West Conference standings right now. So you see how that Colorado State this year went 3-9 and Nevada went 8-4. Nevada was solid. Carson Strong, very, very good quarterback, comes in and is probably going to get drafted maybe in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. But he goes from one of the better teams in the West Division, which is a very competitive division, to one of the worst teams in the Mountain Division. It's like, why? I mean, you even see this here. Jay Norvell's team, he was coaching against Colorado State, and they won 52-10 one of the last games of the season. It was just, it is bad. So you think about that. Why would that happen? One aspect of it, and again, Jay Norvell kind of mentioned this, the fact that he's going to be getting a lot more support. Also, his salary tripled. That does help. But the fact is that Jay Norvell's solid head coach, was a passing game coordinator with Oklahoma for a while. Very, very good head coach, or passing game coordinator with Arizona State. And then comes to Colorado State here from Nevada. I like the addition. I do think that it's going to be tough because, Colorado State, they invest in their football program with a head coach. They invest in their football program with a new stadium. They want to be invited to the Big 12. They've got solid academics. They're a pretty good fit. They're like Kansas football, or they're like Kansas in terms of if Kansas were to turn it around, they've got a lot of things going for them that would make it obvious for them to join the Big Ten. I think the same thing happens with Colorado State. They've got a lot of things going for them. They need to bring it together to perform well. The issue is whether or not somebody can stay there long enough to establish roots, or somebody's going to be like, nah, we see Jay Norvell, we're going to hire him from this other school. Another one here is Brent Venables is taking over as the head coach for the Oklahoma Sooners from Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley goes to USC. Brent Venables, defensive coordinator with Clemson, comes over to Oklahoma and takes over as head coach. Now remember, think about this. Dabo Swinney here. So Brent Venables joined right around here. So you see here the fact that 2011 they went 10-4. They had a good team. They went 10-4. Yeah. But you remember they had a bowl game, and the bowl game was rather interesting. This was the last game that they had before Brent Venables got in there. So they lost to the West Virginia Mountaineers 70-33. I remember that game. It was Geno Smith. It was absolutely just nuts to just watch that game. Now, that being said, so that's this game right here, the last game before Brent Venables shows up. Then they go 11-2, 11-2, 10-3, 14-1, lose the national championship, 14-1, win the national championship, 12-2, 15-0, 14-1, and 10-2, and then 9-3 this last season. So you see the fact that ever since he got there in 2012, they have been on the worst they've ever done is 10-3, or 9-3 this year. Now I know that he's going to be, he's probably not going to be coaching the Cheez-It Bowl, but I suspect that if they win that game, they're going to be a 10-win season. That would be one of their lower rated seasons that they've had. So you see Brent Venables, and again, the one thing that's kind of shocking here is how many. It looks like the Big 12 is starting to play some defense a little bit. They got Brent Venables in there. I know except for the Texas and Oklahoma game earlier in this year, that game was absolutely nuts. But you look at the Big 12 championship. Oklahoma State was a solid defense. I think that they're actually trying to do some of things like that. So you see here with Marcus Freeman taking over for Brian Kelly. So Marcus Freeman, he's the head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So Brian Kelly, I think what Brian Kelly was he's like, dude, I've won everywhere, and I just can't quite get over the hump with Notre Dame. So they just retain Marcus Freeman as the defensive coordinator. I think that defense is still going to be solid. I think that Marcus Freeman knows what they are. They are a smash mouth team. They're kind of like Stanford without, with better players, essentially, is what they are. And I think that's the big factor, is it's very hard for Vanderbilt, Stanford, and Notre Dame to all be good at the same time, because they all three, I think, suck from the same candidates. There's only a certain amount of players that can play at Notre Dame, that can play at Vanderbilt, that can play at Stanford at one time. So when one's up, the other two are down. And you look at it right now, Vanderbilt's down, and Stanford kind of is down too. This is a big one here. So Sonny Dykes, the SMU head coach, and Sonny Dykes is known for his high-flying passing attack, takes over for Gary Patterson. So he goes, he is, again, they're both in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So what's going to happen here is Sonny Dykes will take over at high-flying passing attack. I'm interested to see what's going to happen there because you see that, you'll see a couple other people later on here. There's a couple defensive coordinators that have taken over in the Big 12. Meanwhile, it looks like TCU is going in the opposite direction. They're going to try and be more of an offensive team. We'll kind of see how that goes, but I'm interested to see how that's going to fit with the fact that there's some people adding defensive coaches, some people adding offensive coaches, and see if it's going to get back. Are we going to get back to the old Big 12 days where 60 points was an off day by your offense, or are we going to get to the point where the Big 12 can play a little bit of D now? So here we are. We have Kalen DeBoer. I hope he said his name right. But again, he takes over for Fresno State. He says right here he's won anywhere from the NAIA to the Big 10. He takes over for Jimmy Lake. So UW won a national championship in 1990. We all forget that. They have a fresher national championship than the University of Georgia. So we'll see how they kind of turn out, man. But I know that, UW is clamoring. Again, it's kind of a commuter school, but beautiful school, big school, really good academics, really easy to recruit to. They got great facilities. The only issue is they need to get a coach in there that can establish himself. I know that they had Jimmy Lake, they had Chris Peterson. Hopefully that Kalen DeBoer can take over and lead them back because right now, all they've really got to do is go through Oregon and they can get to that Pac-12 championship game. Another thing here I wanted to highlight is, again, remember I said this before, that the two most important resources in college football, number one is a coach, and then number two is recruiting, because a coach affects recruiting and so on and so forth. So you see here that the fact that there's a lot of people here that if you got a good coach, you keep him. Mark Stoops, extended. Hugh Freeze, extended. PJ Fleck, extended. Scott Frost, extended. Retained. Mike Gundy, extended. It says right here, the longtime Cowboys coach received a 5-year contract extension in perpetuity. Does that mean forever? Is he extended forever? Jeez. You see Jonathan Smith, the head coach of Oregon State, led them to a really good season. If they would have beaten the Oregon Ducks and Washington State would have lost, they would have gone to the Pac-12 championship game. That didn't happen, but they were close. James Franklin, extended. Again, he was a really hot topic with USC and a couple other programs. You see here, Jeff Traylor, extended. Dave Clawson, extended. Dave Clawson, I did a video on him before with that slow mesh. Really, really popular coach down there with Wake Forest. I know that we'll see what they can do if they can establish themselves, but I don't see why they can't be the top team in football between them, North Carolina State, North Carolina, and Duke. They might be the top one. All right, guys, that's my check-in. What do you guys think is one of the more interesting ones? I know that there was a lot in there, and I wanted to cover some of the smaller ones. Obviously, you know about Brian Kelly. You know about, Lincoln Riley. You know about those guys. So, I just wanted to see about the couple of the smaller ones and kind of how it's going to affect things. All right, guys, thanks for checking in with me. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys on Friday. I am out.